Welcome to Mythos AI, your source for Cliff's Notes on complex subjects. Join Anna and Phil for yet another engaging conversation.
Welcome to the deep dive. We're diving into Linda McMahon's nomination as Secretary of Education. You might know her from the world of wrestling, but her career path has been, well, anything but traditional.
It's a fascinating case for sure. Her journey from professional wrestling to potentially leading the U.S. Department of Education, it really raises questions about her qualifications and the potential impact on public education.
Yeah. To really grasp the significance of her nomination, let's start with her background.
Well, McMahon co-founded and built WWE, transforming it into this global entertainment empire. Later on, she transitioned into politics, serving as the administrator of the Small Business Administration, the SBA, under President Trump.
Right, and while her business success is evident, her experience in education seems limited.
You're right. Her involvement in education mainly comes from her time on the Connecticut State Board of Education and her support for these, literacy programs. However, this experience, well, it pales in comparison to the complexities of leading a federal agency, one that's responsible for shaping national education policy.
I see. Some argue that her business background could actually be an asset in managing a large organization, like the Department of Education.
That's a valid point. Her experience in managing a large, complex organization like WWE could potentially translate into effective leadership at the Department of Education. However, critics argue that the education sector needs a nuanced understanding. Things like pedagogical approaches, curriculum development, and the diverse needs of students across the country, areas where her expertise is untested.
Okay, so to get a clearer picture of her potential impact, let's delve deeper into her stances on key education issues.
One of McMahon's most prominent positions is her strong advocacy for school choice. She believes that parents should have, more autonomy in choosing their children's educational paths. This includes using public funds for private and charter schools.
This stance has definitely been met with mixed reactions. Some proponents argue that school choice empowers parents and fosters competition among schools, potentially leading to better quality.
You're right. However, opponents raise concerns about the potential diversion of funds away from public schools. This could exacerbate existing inequalities and potentially undermine the principle of providing quality education for all.
McMahon's time at WWE has also been a point of contention. Allegations of sexual misconduct, steroid use among performers, and exploitative practices during her tenure have raised concerns about her judgment and leadership, particularly for a role overseeing the well-being of students.
These controversies, they really do cast a shadow over her nomination. Critics argue that these issues raise serious ethical questions. They warrant scrutiny when you're evaluating her suitability for a position of, such immense responsibility, especially one entrusted with the welfare of millions of children.
It's interesting to see how her nomination, despite President Trump's stated intention to dismantle the Department of Education, could be a strategic move.
Indeed. Her appointment could be interpreted as a strategy to advance a conservative agenda from within the department. By appointing someone who champions school choice and a reduced federal role in education, the administration could indirectly achieve its goals of decentralization and potentially pave the way for significant changes in education funding and governance.
This raises some crucial questions about the future of public education in the United States.
Absolutely. Her potential leadership represents a broader shift, a shift towards privatization and parental choice in education. This raises critical questions about the potential impact on educational equality, funding distribution, and the role of the federal government in ensuring quality education for all students. These are complex issues that deserve careful consideration and further exploration.
So let's shift gears a bit and look at Linda McMahon's time at the Small Business Administration, the SBA, where she was the administrator.
Yeah, this period, it gives us some insights, I think, into her leadership style and her potential approach to education. Right. During her time at the SBA, McMahon really focused on initiatives to support small businesses, particularly those in rural areas. She was a big advocate for programs for women entrepreneurs and military veterans, kind of aligning with the Trump administration's focus on these demographics.
Her efforts at the SBA, they really highlight this commitment she has to empowering certain groups and fostering entrepreneurship.
Yeah, you could speculate that she might bring a similar focus to the Department of Education, maybe advocating for policies that support underserved communities or, promote vocational training and apprenticeships. These were areas she really emphasized at the SBA.
But some critics argue that, well, that this focus on specific groups at the SBA could lead to a more segmented approach to education, potentially neglecting the needs of other student populations.
Yeah, that's a valid point. It's really important to examine whether her approach would prioritize the needs of all students or if it would favor specific groups, and potentially make existing disparities in the education system even worse.
To understand the potential impact of her leadership, we need to analyze her stances on key education issues beyond just school choice.
Okay, one area where her views have been controversial is standardized testing. McMahon supports standardized testing as a way to measure student achievement and hold schools accountable.
Right, that aligns with the broader education reform movement's emphasis on data-driven decision-making and accountability.
Exactly. However, critics argue that if you rely too much on standardized testing, it can lead to this narrow focus on test scores and potentially neglect other important parts of education, like creativity, critical thinking, social emotional development.
What about teacher evaluation?
Well, McMahon has said she supports moving away from those traditional evaluation systems that really rely on seniority.
I see.
She believes that teacher evaluations should be based on multiple measures of effectiveness, things like student growth data, classroom observations, and peer feedback.
So that lines up with the education reform movement's push for more rigorous teacher evaluations, and a focus on student outcomes.
Yeah. But critics argue that using student test scores too heavily to evaluate teachers, it can be unfair and lead to, teaching to the test instead of focusing on the holistic development of the student.
Early childhood education has gotten a lot of attention lately. Where does she stand on that?
McMahon has emphasized how important it is to give all children access to high-quality early learning experiences.
Okay.
She believes that early childhood education has this crucial role in fostering cognitive development, social emotional learning, and school readiness.
Right.
This stance is widely supported by educators and researchers. They point to the long-term benefits of early childhood education, particularly for children from disadvantaged backgrounds.
So it's clear that McMahon's views on education are shaped by this belief in competition, accountability, and data-driven decision-making.
Her approach kind of reflects this market-oriented perspective, emphasizing choice, efficiency, and measurable outcomes.
And while her ideas have been praised and criticized, they offer a glimpse into what could be a very different future for American education, one that's markedly different from what we have now.
It remains to be seen whether her vision would lead to a more equitable and effective education system, but her potential impact on education policy, well, it definitely warrants careful analysis and consideration.
Okay, so let's think long-term now. With Linda McMahon's potential leadership, we need to look at both the potential benefits and the drawbacks, right,
Yeah.
of her vision for education.
Right. One potential benefit of her approach, this market-oriented approach, is, well, increased innovation. If you encourage competition among schools and empower parents with choice, her policies could really incentivize schools to develop these new creative approaches to education, potentially leading to better learning experiences.
And this increased innovation could lead to more personalized learning, like learnings that's tailored to the needs of each student, and maybe a greater focus on those 21st century skills like critical thinking, problem solving, and collaboration.
But a potential downside is the risk of making those inequalities that already exist even worse. Critics say a system that relies heavily on school choice and competition could really give an advantage to students from wealthier families, the ones who have more resources and information. And that could mean leaving behind the students from disadvantaged backgrounds.
Yeah, that raises some concerns about a widening achievement gap and a two-tiered education system where some students have access to these great educational opportunities while others are left behind.
Another possible benefit of McMahon's vision is greater involvement from parents. By giving parents the power to choose their kids' schools and holding those schools accountable for how they perform, her policies could lead to more engaged parents. Parents who are actively involved in their children's education.
Yeah, and this increased parental involvement could create a more collaborative and supportive learning environment, I guess.
But critics say that putting too much emphasis on parental choice could lead to more segregation in the education system and more stratification. Parents with, similar values and preferences, they might all cluster together, and that could lead to schools that only cater to certain demographics. And that could really undermine the goal of having a diverse and inclusive education for all students.
So we have all these potential positive and negative impacts. It's really crucial to figure out if the benefits of her vision outweigh the risks, don't you think?
To really address those potential downsides, we need to think about safeguards and policies that make sure every student has access to quality education, no matter their background or socioeconomic status. This could involve things like supporting those schools that are struggling, giving targeted help to disadvantaged students, and promoting diversity and inclusion within schools.
Linda McMahon's possible leadership is a pivotal moment for American education. Her vision is rooted in these market principles and parental choice, and it has the potential to really reshape the education landscape in some profound ways.
Yeah, her legacy is going to depend on whether her policies actually lead to a more equitable and an effective education system for every student. The future of American education really depends on finding that balance between encouraging innovation and making sure that all children have the chance to reach their full potential.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Linda McMahon's career and her potential influence on education, it's clear that her nomination has started a really important conversation. This conversation, covers these complex issues like school choice, funding, and equity, and it demands that we carefully consider how to create an education system that truly serves all students.
Thanks for listening to Mythos AI. Stay tuned for more concise insights. And remember to hit the like button and subscribe for future episodes.